This is my new GASGAS EC350. It is my first ever brand new bike, and for some of you that may not know, it's basically just a red KTM with a few less bells and whistles. I finished the run-in period of 3 hours specified by the owner's manual, which has just been me riding it mostly around on the road. I'm sure you can tell by the giant mirrors and indicators that it's road registered, but now that the weather is getting better, I'll mostly be riding it off-road. I want to make some changes to the bike beforehand, some for reliability, some for quality of life, making the bike more user-friendly, and some purely for aesthetic reasons, and I'll talk about the changes I'm making as I go along. Some things I already did off camera was remove the chain guard, which basically just got to take that bolt out there, and you also got to take out, there's a nut in the back, you take that off, and then the chain guard comes off. But the most annoying part is that you actually have to remove your chain or cut the chain guard to actually get it off. The chain guard's not really like a big issue, but in my opinion, it looks bad. It's bound to get broken and it doesn't really serve me any benefit, so I took it off. Another thing I took off camera, it's actually on TikTok, just pulling this charcoal canister out of the frame up in here. The main purpose for the charcoal canister is to basically just filter the fuel vapors that escape off the fuel that's inside the tank. It's just like emission stuff that's not required here in Australia. There's no real benefit to taking it out, but I just took it out anyway because, I don't know, I was bored. And on the Australian bikes, there is no baffle in the end here like some of the North American bikes have, but there is a baffle like inside that you can sometimes see. I've taken mine out. I actually had to take the exhaust off, drill out the rivets down here, pull all the packing out just to remove that baffle. And I did all this, again, out of boredom. I didn't expect it to make any sort of power difference. I knew it would be a little bit louder. It's still reasonable. It's not obnoxious sound or anything like that, but I actually did notice a little bit of a power increase. First things first, and probably the most important piece of bike protection is a skid plate to protect the frame and the engine from any impacts. I wouldn't say I'm super impressed with this skid plate. They kind of give you a pretty shitty bracket that hooks up under the frame here instead of like a molded in hook on the actual skid plate. The bolts they give you are not that good, and I can tell you from experience that the first time these get dirt in them and that you go to take the skid plate off, you round out the threads and then these get stuck in the frame. So better off just going with like the factory bolts. So you've got the 8mm hex, and if that gets rounded out, you've also got the Torx on the inside. So you've got two chances of getting that out without wrecking them. And then the bottom one they give you is like a recessed kind of washer that the bolts they give you don't actually go in at all. Like that bolt doesn't actually go in that recessed washer. It just sits on the top of it, which seems kind of weird. So I've just got an Allen bolt that fits inside that recessed washer. It's a 6mm Allen and this is a 5mm. So the 6mm theoretically should be stronger, and I've got more chance of getting that out without rounding it. But overall, it's pretty good. It has the linkage protection. It gives you a good deal of protection on the side of the cases, and it sits nice and tight up to the frame and the engine. Another pretty important thing to me is folding levers. The handguards that I intend to run aren't the wraparound type. I don't really like the wraparound type. So I run folding levers with the flag style handguards. I don't have the bracket for the handguards yet, but I do have some folding levers to replace these with. And I also have a billet throttle tube because first time you drop a bike, you smash the throttle tube and then the rest of the day it feels like you're holding a bunch of broken plastic for a throttle. So it's nice to swap out the throttle tube. The only thing with going to a billet throttle tube, they generally have like a bearing in the end. And because of that, the grip actually sits like about 10mm further off the bars, which can make your bars feel 10mm longer on one side, funnily enough. So you can either just ignore it or you can cut the end of your bar off. Because, as I was saying earlier, that the charcoal canister has been removed on this bike, the fuel vent hose now just goes into the steering stem of the bike. This is going to be in the way of a bar bag I'm going to put on a bit later. I'm just going to put the motocross style vent hose holder onto the frame. Something else that's basically purely aesthetic is I want to change the white plastics on the back here to red. I love the look of the 2022 motocross models that are all red. I think it looks a lot better. I personally don't really like white plastics because they look fine when they're brand new, but after like the first ride, they're just stained brown and they just never look the same again. So I might as well take these off while they're still pretty fresh, keep them so that when I go to sell the bike in the future maybe, I can put them on and it's basically like a fresh set of plastics. The new side plastics don't come with this little plug here that your airbox cover plugs into, so I just need to get some needle nose pliers and get that out. Something that I saw someone do that I thought was a really good idea is they put their spare levers up under their subframe here. In this instance, I obviously have folding levers, but on the off chance that I break one off road, I'll have some spare ones tucked up on the subframe that you'll hardly even notice is there. So I've just come to my parents' house because I don't have a compressor anymore to change the seat cover. I've got this Guts seat cover. I'll pull all these staples out with the flathead screwdriver and staple the new cover on. And just like that, teleport it back home. The seat cover's done. Smooth. It's 4 days later and some more parts for this bike have shown up, but I also got my other bikes back. The GASGAS EC350 back there and the RMX 250 that you guys should be familiar with. The RMX 250 is for sale. I'd love to keep this thing for longer than I have and ride it for more than I have. I just don't have room for it. As you can see, I'm in a single car garage, so there's not a ton of space for bikes. And I was never going to keep this one long term anyway. This was just a fun project. Now it's time for somebody else to enjoy it, and hopefully they get a lot more use out of it than I would. So if anyone's interested, message me on Instagram and we'll see if we can work something out. The rear disc guard was a little tough to get in. You have to put the big piece on while the caliper carrier is actually on the swing arm. So there's not like a lot of space between that and the swing arm to fit this up through there. So you saw that I had to actually grind a little bit off and pull that plug out because it was just like a millimeter too big. I'm not sure if the casting of the swing arm or the product was the reason it wasn't going in easy, but I just had to grind off a little bit. You could do it with a file if you really wanted to get that in there, but now that that's in there, that is super solid. So that's another piece of crucial buck protection done, and I'll move on to do the front disc guard now. The install for the front disc guard went a lot smoother, but I don't think it's going to offer the same amount of protection as the rear disc guard. This thing is decently flimsy. It might help deflect stuff, it might help against small hits, but any big hit, I think you're still going to bend your disc. It's better than nothing. Time will tell how good it is, and there'll be an update in the future anyway on what I think of this and a lot of the other parts I'm putting on today. Something else that I'm changing purely for aesthetics, maybe a little bit of function, are these frame guards. I don't like how they're black. I much prefer the look of the red frame, and I'd like it to, continue down here. So I'm gonna change them out with these Acerbis ones. These cover a little bit more of the frame, so they do actually offer a little bit more protection, and they have a bit of grip on them. So that's an added bonus compared to the stock frame guards. Something else that needs to be changed for aesthetic reasons is this big ugly tail section. It's also really likely to just get smashed off the first time I ride off road anyway. Under this extension is the normal tail piece that the tail light can still mount to, but there'll be no spot for indicators or a number plate light. So I've got some ideas on how I'm going to do that, and I'll show you guys as I go along. So this is the normal tail piece that was under this fender extension. It only holds the tail and brake light, so I'm going to need to drill a hole either side to try and mount some indicators. You can see I've already drilled holes for the number plate, and I'm going to have to add some plate lights as well. What I've done is I've bought a kit of the factory plugs, so I can put the plugs onto my new indicators. That way, if I ever need to put this fender extension on to pass a roadworthy, it'll just plug back in. So it's a few days later, and I've got my indicators installed, and I've got some number plate lights. I also made this bracket for the number plate to mount to, which will give it a bit of strength, stop it from getting damaged off road. And I also gave it a bit of a bend to actually suit the shape of the tailpiece. So you can see I just drilled some holes in the side of the tailpiece for the indicators, and the wires go on the inside, and I've got some factory plugs on there. And then for the number plate lights, I had to drill a hole through the bottom, and the wires hang out a bit, but I've got them protected with some sheathing, and then they connect up inside as well with the factory plugs. I'll also swap the front indicators out in the future with the same ones on the rear, but for now these will be fine. And these are going to be less likely to be hit than the rear was going to be. I've also got this Thrill Seekers bar bag, which is pretty simple. It's just two Velcro straps that go over the handlebar pad. I just put my phone in here and my wallet so that if I pull over and I want to film something, or if I want to navigate, I can pull my phone out straight away. Or if I need my wallet for any reason while I'm riding on the road, then it's pretty accessible. And I won't have to wear a backpack or keep that sort of stuff in my pockets. These mirrors I'm going to eventually change for something a little bit smaller, maybe something that folds away. For now, I'm probably just going to unscrew them when I'm riding off road and just screw them back on when I am riding on road. I'm still waiting on a few parts like the handguards, and I need to ride the bike a bit more to figure out what else I'm going to do to it. Leave me a comment on what you think I should do to the GASGAS in the next video, and please leave a like if you enjoyed this video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video.